Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Amy Frampton. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer at Nava Benefits. Now, for those just getting to know Nava Benefits, we're a modern brokerage that is focused on fixing healthcare for all Americans. It's a big mission, but one that we feel super strongly about. And we combine great services with tech to offer a new way to work with a brokerage. And so we're really excited about the topic today because we want your benefits to be easy to understand, easy to use for your employees, and to take the work off of the very busy HR teams. So today I'm joined by Laura Butler. She's the Chief People Officer at TTEC, and Tanya Anderson, Global Director of Benefits at TTEC. Thank you both so much for being here.
Good morning.
It's our pleasure.
So Laura, could you tell us just a little bit about your role at TTEC?
Sure. I'm Laura Butler, and I'm the Chief People Officer for TTEC. And we are a customer experience company and operate in just about every single state, actually, in the US and across the globe in numerous countries. And I am proud to be back at TTEC leading the people function.
Awesome. Welcome, welcome. Tanya?
Tanya Anderson. I lead the benefits group here at TTEC. So anything that's kind of viewed as an employee benefit falls under my organization. So whether or not it be health and welfare or tuition reimbursement, wellness, all PTO, that all runs under my organization for TTEC.
Awesome. Excellent. Well, thank you for being here. Before we get started, I'd love to just tell me why you love to be a people leader. Like, why did you choose this? What is this? What is this career about for you? What do you love?
I'll go first. So I love this role because it gets a combination of being very strategic. So you get to do a lot of strategy, a lot of thought-provoking things to how do we bring the best of what's in the ecosystem to our employees. And then I also like to help employees, right, navigate the healthcare system. It's difficult, it's complicated. So how do we make sure that that's easy for them? And you get to use a lot of cool tools and do a lot of cool things. Particularly here at TTEC, we get a lot of opportunities to do a lot of cool things. And that is really exciting when you're like in my position, right? You get to do a lot of cool things for employees and test the waters, do cool offerings that you might not get to do somewhere else.
I love hearing that. I love the enthusiasm for helping employees. That's awesome. Laura, how about you?
I would just kind of piggyback on that. At TTEC, our mission is to bring humanity to business and create these extraordinary experiences for our clients and their customers. And that starts with the employee experience. And there is nothing more fundamental to the employee experience than health and wellness. So I love this topic. And I'm so grateful to have Tanya on our team because this is an incredibly changing landscape. And so it's also very intellectually interesting working on benefit and health and wellness programs.
That's excellent. I know when you and I started, you and I started talking about doing this together, you said, well, we got to have Tanya on there because she's a powerhouse and has a real passion for employee experience. So thrilled to have you both. So our topic is about the power of benefits renewal in the employee experience, which we just were talking about. And it's renewal season. Does that give you goosebumps? It feels a little bit of like, I don't know if it's energy or goosebumps, but it is renewal season. So many companies right now are starting to think about renewals either now or over the next few months. And it can be a little bit stressful. Are you hearing back from people? How is it going to roll out? What are your employees going to say? How much is it going to cost? All those sorts of things. So our conversation today will really be around those pieces and the best practices that you both have found in your careers, both at TTEC and prior. So I do think we should dive in. I think an important thing to open with is context for the audience on how your benefits are structured at TTEC. So Tanya, your company has both fully and self-insured plans, correct?
Correct. Yep, we offer both. We offer a fully insured product to some of our geographies, and then we have a self-insured plan that covers the rest of the I'm going to call it the mainland US from that standpoint.
Okay, excellent. That's great context for folks just as we dive in. So Laura, let's start with you. Can you give the audience an overview of how you think about benefits holistically to set the stage and employee experience?
Absolutely. I think benefits, more and more with the changing healthcare landscape are part of how you attract employees to an organization. They want to know what benefits do you offer, and they're comparing that against what they currently have and also what things they're aspiring to do. So really they're looking more and more at the whole picture. And then once an employee is in the company, a great benefit health and wellness program will help ensure that people are engaged and healthy and able to perform their work well. One of the benefits we offer helps with like physical musculoskeletal issues, and because we have a lot of typing, and it really helps keep all of us performing and doing our job physically in the most healthy way. It can help with absenteeism, so many other benefits to an organization, in addition to having happy employees that feel like they're well taken care of.
I love that. Tanya, do you have anything on that you're thinking about as you think about just holistically how benefits fit into the structure at TTEC for the employees?
I think benefits fit in, as Laura said, right, to really bring the best version of you to TTEC, right? So how can we make sure that we're giving you all the right tools, whether that's mental health, whether that is voluntary programs, or even our medical plan? How do we ensure that we are providing kind of the backdrop for you so that you can bring your best self to TTEC? And then our wellness program, we always look at, right, where can we meet you so that you generate your wellness journey wherever you're at. So we're not asking you to be the ultra marathoner, right? Maybe it's just getting started with how do I eat healthy, or how do I budget, or how do I do something that helps me be the best that I can be. And therefore I then translate that to our customers and make sure that they're having a great experience when they're interacting with TTEC as well.
That's so helpful.
One thing just adding to that, I feel like, is the diversity and inclusion component, because benefits programs can really signal how inclusive of an employer are you, just right out of the gate. And so that helps with the entire employee life cycle as well.
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, as you think about your benefits and you've got these goals around hiring and around bringing people being their best selves at work and all of these things, I think about the typing and the musculoskeletal, like those are big things. How do you measure and know if your benefits are working?
That's a great question. So one of the things we always look at is, right, what's the engagement and the utilization of our program? So, right, are we bringing plans that really employees engage with and then they're using? We also really want to make sure that we're balancing the right mix. So we're not heavy on one thing or another. We're really kind of figuring out what does that landscape look like to make sure that we're meeting everyone's sort of needs, right? Whether I'm a new mom, maybe I'm just got married, maybe I got sending kids to school. How do we make sure we're transcending that life cycle for an employee and really giving them benefits that are meaningful, and give them options? I think choice is always a great option. If I can pick and choose for me, that makes it feel very personalized to me. And therefore, right, I'm more likely to say, I have a benefit package that TTEC resonates with me. It doesn't look like yours or like Laura's. It looks really like me and what I need.
That's helpful. And where do you get that data from? Like, how are you collecting that data? Obviously, utilization data is one kind, but how are you getting that feedback?
We use a lot of data. So I'm a data hound by nature. So I like looking at data.
Data hound, data nerd, all those things are good.
Correct. So we use a mix of things, right? We really kind of get our pulse of what employees are looking for from our HR team. So we connect with them to say, what are you hearing? What's the pain points? Kind of what do we need to look at? We also look at data within, and it can be carrier reports. I know not everybody's got a data warehouse. Look at your carrier reports. Where are issues popping up, right? So maybe you have a diabetic population, maybe you have a pre-diabetic, maybe a musculoskeletal issue or cancer, right? So you can start to look at solutions that you can put in that help employees navigate that landscape. And then we also use, other items, maybe like voice of the employee survey. So we have done that in the past where we go out and ask employees, tell us what is important to you. And we do listen to that. We've put in pet insurance, we've put in some voluntary programs to really help employees that they've told us that that's something that they like. So we use a variety of landscapes to kind of pick and choose what the organization needs. And then we also make sure we're connecting with our leadership about what's important to them and what do we need to make sure that we're putting in place. So it's either DE&I or something else that we really need to kind of make sure we're capturing and really listening to all participants in that ecosystem for us.
That's great. What do you and I had talked a little bit earlier, and you were talking about pilots. I thought this was such a great way to understand what would work and what wouldn't work. Share, either both of you, how do you use pilots, and how do you think about kind of what a broker or carrier can do for you actually to understand what's working or what could work?
Yeah, so pilots are great, particularly if you don't have a large budget, right? It also gives you an opportunity to test the waters to see if what you're thinking is actually going to resonate with employees. I'll give you an example. Right now, we're looking at using a Calm app. So Calm from a mental health, right? We didn't want to go out and pay a licensing fee because we didn't know how many people were going to take that up. So we simply, you never fails to just ask, right? If they're willing to give you a relationship, they're probably willing to do something from a pilot. It may cost you a small amount of money, but then you're not paying a PEPM or you're not paying, kind of a per incident fee. We've done pilots a lot. So we've done pilots in the wellness area where we test the waters to say, do we think this program is going to resonate, or do we think employees are really going to love it? And if not, then you're not on the hook for, you come out and say it's a pilot, then we know, right, it's not going to be here forever. And sometimes a pilot program also gets the interest spiked with employees because they want to be part of that pilot program, kind of that once in a lifetime offering to do it. Always ask. All the worst they can tell you is no, but always do ask if you're really thinking about that and you want to see just how it resonates with employees and what happens.
And I would just kind of, you said something there, like if it is something you're really interested in, it is great to pilot it first because it helps strengthen the business case. But also you want to make sure that you're piloting, every year, just one or two things, or not like, hey, we're in 10 pilots or something like that. You want to use that sparingly because it goes back to the adoption metric that if you distract people too much, then you're not going to get the adoption. But as Tanya said, mental health is something we're keenly focused on. And so it's helpful for us to test some tools to say, which tool are we the most interested in going all in on? Which one is getting the adoption? And I think that's just absolutely essential. I can't imagine just the wasted effort and communication if it turned out to be something that employees just thought was nice. Sometimes, you think about a gym, people are, well, if we had a gym in the office, we would use it all the time. Well, I think a lot of people have home gyms and don't use those all the time. Like at the end of the day, you really want to make sure before you invest, are people going to take advantage of it?
For sure. Sometimes things sound better than they actually are. Like waking up every morning to run 10 miles. The night before, that always sounds like such a good idea, right?
Absolutely.
It's good to test. And I do think that tip of how many do you test at once so that you don't distract. That's a great one. And I think asking, a lot of it is, what do you ask for? And I think having the just the knowledge of what you can ask for from a broker or from a carrier, and the data that they can share with you is just really, really important. Pilots, etc. So how have you seen, Tanya, voice of the employee surveys work? I know you've been at bigger companies, smaller companies. How have you kind of seen that work as a way to get that input? I know you mentioned you use them sometimes at TTEC, but I just love to hear historically how you've seen them work.
Yeah, so we last one we did at TTEC was probably 2019. So we essentially came out together with all of the total rewards packages, and we said, if we gave you 100 points or $100, how would you allocate your funds? Sometimes you get the basic, right? We want better deductibles, better out of pockets. But you do get little nuggets that they will give to you, and you take those nuggets, and those are the things that you kind of hold on to. So, right, like I said, the pet insurance, or voluntary programs, or we get a lot of requests for fertility benefits. So, right, that's not something we have in our medical plan, but we're looking at alternative options to how do we get fertility, not coverage, but support, doing that. So you go out and ask, and you can ask a variety of ways. We just did the 100 point kind of thing, but you can ask the questions. What do you value? What do you feel is missing from our benefit offerings? What do you think might be of a value? And they'll give you feedback. We also use our employee survey data. There's a couple of questions in our employee survey data that we did. We also mined all that data to kind of make sure that we're not missing something, that we're hearing back from employees, just to make sure if they're asking, right, is it something that we could possibly put in or do, kind of enhance that employee experience down the line.
That's great. I love how you listen and use the data from all of these sources to come together with a plan. And a lot of that coming together with a proposed plan is to get aligned with leadership. Laura, I know you're on the leadership team at TTEC. How do you think about getting aligned with them? I mean, this is a big spend. It obviously is huge for employee experience and kind of the day-to-day happiness and work that they're doing. How do you think about that alignment?
Well, actually, one thing I'm lucky is that usually it's the executive teams that are users. They're highly interested in the type of insurance that you have, whether it's, an HSA account or PPO, et cetera. And so alignment starts with just educating. What do you have and why do you have it? In addition, having regular meetings just to review the benefits offerings. There's a lot of input that'll happen throughout the year, especially this time of year is interesting because I don't know about you, Tanya, but I'm getting so many articles sent to me about new. It's like everyone knows it's benefit season, so
yes,
suddenly
benefit season is
your
the
feed
Super
is
Bowl.
full.
Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. Your feed's full of all these great ideas, and so helping people understand this is what we're doing, this is why we're doing it, and investigating new things for education. I think this is one of the really important things, and I appreciate that Tanya does, is that she doesn't look at something and say, no, we don't have the budget. No, we don't do, she looks into it, and has a rational reason for why we might consider it or might not. And so when we're in those health and wellness briefing sessions with the executive team about what we're doing, why we're doing it, the impact on hiring, retention, life cycle, happiness, engagement, Tanya's there to be able to share why we might be doing something or why we haven't, what we've tried, that kind of thing. So it's got to feel very collaborative, not like this is an HR thing, but this is actually one of the most important and fundamental benefits you can provide to employees.
And how if you're a team of one or you're short staffed, you maybe don't have a Tanya, we should all have one. But how do you think about, moving forward with getting aligned with your leadership team and roll out, there certainly are companies that have that team of one, what are the most fundamental pieces of what you're doing that could really help someone who's coming in and saying, hey, this is just me?
Yeah, I think to piggyback on what Laura said, know your guardrails, right? Have a conversation with whoever your leader is about what are my guardrails, right? Are we looking at being flat? Is there a small investment that can be made? Are we looking at decreasing benefits cost? Always kind of know your guardrails. The other thing, know your organization, right? Are you noise adverse? Because you can't go down the path of highly disruptive choices if you know that your organization is noise adverse. Also know, what's your disruption like as an organization, right? Are you willing to tolerate disruption? I think those are always key. Like, in the past, we've been noise adverse, right? We want to make changes, but we don't want to make it so that it's noisy for employees. So those are important things that you just need to know so you can navigate the waters of renewal. So you go in and have the conversation with your broker to say, okay, if our renewal is coming in at 10%, these are some levers that we can pull. How can we pick the levers that are on the green to yellow stoplight versus the bright red ones? And I think that always helps you do that, and what we're willing to do and not do, right? Are we willing to change brokers every year? I mean, carriers every year? Are we willing to, change deductibles and out of pockets? Are we willing to change plan designs? Those are important things for you to know as a benefits, even if you're a team of one. How do you navigate those waters so that you are successful and you're bringing things to the table that don't get shot down by your leadership out of the gate?
That's super helpful. Thank you. As you're talking to, maybe Laura, for you, as you're talking to other HR leaders, and as you said, this is the season, right? Everyone's getting all these emails about renewals and what to do and what to think about. Depending on your size, now through September, even October, is kind of the Super Bowl, or at least the playoffs
Yes.
of the season. What are you hearing from other folks? Are they, if there are budget cuts or layoffs or other things going on, how are they thinking about this season and how it could impact their employee experience, with the context of all this other stuff that's going on kind of in the economy?
Well, I think that it is important to understand how much wellness is part of your value proposition into the organization. It can be a real differentiator, but other organizations are like, you know what? That's not the differentiator we want. We really would rather, back to Tanya's point earlier, when you have that $100, how would you spend it? Like spend it on comp. I don't want to spend it on benefits. And then sort of it's taking a look at certain free things. So when I, was with the smaller organization, we just didn't have money for like some of the kind of during the pandemic, the classes and things that were happening. So we went to YouTube and just took links to different YouTube videos for health and wellness and sending things out to people and just trying to get really scrappy about it because that was all that we had as a resource. And so we wanted to provide it, but also to Tanya's point around adoption, the benefits that we had at that time when we were really trying to tighten the belt, they weren't well adopted. And so when employees were like, well, why are we just doing these YouTube videos and not this name the vendor, name the vendor, name the vendor? I could say we had pretty low adoption. So we've got these videos. We'll continue to manage this every year and see if our adoption goes up. But in the meantime, we recognize it's important to some people. And so we want to provide something. And that's what's nice about the age of the internet. There are a lot of tools and resources that are available sometimes for free.
It's almost like another way to do a pilot, right?
Yep.
You get kind of scrappy and what you're asking for, what you're searching for, and then, let's see if people start to engage. And then, we can take a look at that later. Well, we talked
one other thing
about,
too is the leaning into your benefits provider and really having them help as a partner. And that's true no matter what size of organization you're in. The benefits providers are just such a tremendous partner in decision making and what they see other organizations do, communication planning, just so many different things. But like I said, in companies big and small, I have found them to be an incredible ally.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's something that we obviously believe in strongly at Nava. I'd love to hear how you manage your relationship for success with your broker.
It's a partnership. It's a constant conversation, right? I will say, don't let your broker always drive the bus. You definitely have to come with what your organization wants and needs are. What are you looking for to make sure that you stay aligned? Just because they bring something to the table, you have to be the voice of it, that if that will work for the organization or not. Also, when things aren't going very well, make sure that you having those honest conversations with them to say, this isn't going very well. We need better reporting. We need better budget insights. We need better, whatever it is, make sure that you're having that conversation with them and don't be afraid, right? You are the client. Don't be afraid to ask for the things that you need and push back when it's not going the way you think it's going to go. But we're always in the thing. We don't call them vendors, right? None of our partners are vendors. They're really partners. And when you start to think of them as vendors, then that's when you need to have the conversation about, are they the right fit for us, right? Are they willing to go the extra mile? Are they willing to bring that free program to you? Are they willing to say, here's where your area is. We've got a program that might work for you. And I think that's the same thing for brokers, right? When tough times get tough, are they bringing to you solutions to help you navigate those waters, or are they just sitting on the sidelines watching you flounder on the shore, right? It's weird to say that, but that's kind of the way I always view it is, are they really in the boat with you, going down the river together and willing to take on the heat as long as with you as well?
That's great. You were talking about when we were prepping for this, you're talking about good cop, bad cop. Do you want to share
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
metaphor for us?
If you have a sourcing or a procurement partner, right, when things aren't going well, whether it's your broker or your carriers, you can always have them be the bad cop, right? So that you maintain that relationship. If you don't have a procurement or sourcing department, right, maybe it's a different leader, an accounting leader or finance leader that is willing to have that conversation. But that always then helps you maintain that ongoing working relationship. If you have that bad cop with you that says things are going very well, or you're right, trying to negotiate a contract or something of that nature that can help you out.
I love that.
Yeah, and I think that's true of any finance partner, even if there isn't a procurement, any finance partner bringing into it, because this is actually internally one of the most important relationships related to benefits are with finance. And and that's self-insured or not, it doesn't matter. It's just a matter of really having that tight relationship. And by nature, they're going to ask questions that are far more numerical and budget in mind. And so that human part is really where the people function comes in. So it's almost a natural expectation to just say, hey, we want, finance comes in and they ask some of those harder
those
financial
tough
questions.
questions. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. For sure. I'll say that's true in marketing as well. When we're doing marketing, purchasing, that's absolutely true from my perspective as well.
Yes.
So we talked a little bit about if you start calling someone a vendor or not a partner, then it's not going in the right direction. And
Right.
in the middle of this renewal, season, how do you know when it's going off the rails? And do you have a bad renewal story that you're willing to share? You can neutralize it. I'm not looking to
no, as Laura said, right, find that finance person. It may be your CFO if you're in a small organization, right? Have a relationship with them. I'm sure you probably already do because you're having constant conversations. When things start going off the rails, it's always great to have that relationship with them to say, right, we're going off budget, or what's driving those budget conversations, right? That's where your broker can also sit at the table and have that conversation with you, so you're not the only one. And that's why I say the boat. I will give an example. In 2022, I came back to TTEC. I'm a boomeranger. And things weren't going, we hit first quarter, and obviously we were just coming out of COVID. Things were not going very well. The CFO at the time was like, what is happening, right? We seem to be running hot. What's going on? The broker at the time wasn't very helpful. We had to navigate this renewal by ourselves, pretty much, right? Coming up with all the options. Where can we have vendor negotiations? Where can we push on things? We ended up with a 14% renewal that year going in, and we were told to come in flat. We achieved that. We changed our broker right at about open enrollment timeframe. So we changed them in August. So they had to hit the ground running coming in, right? Good thing is we already had all of this kind of negotiated. We had stuff. We renegotiated our RX. We had pressed on fees with our medical. We calculated deductibles and premium changes. But that's one of those where you're like, you're looking at this $10 million bogey that you have to hit, and you're like, how am I going to navigate this? And I have a broker that's not helping me. How do I do this? And so that's a bad renewal situation. And you always have to kind of figure out, luckily enough, we were able to change brokers, but it was late in the game. But that's one of those where that relationship wasn't going very well. It was going off the rails.
Yeah, 14% to flat. That's both scary to hear at the beginning of that story and amazing to hear that you found a relationship that you could, get to flat and really push. I do think knowing that as HR and with, a bad cop, if and when you need one, that you can push on this stuff. It's not thank you, I'll take this and this is what it is sort of thing. I think that's a great lesson for everyone on the call.
And we did it, and we still improved the benefits, right? That year we added Sword, which is our virtual physical therapy. So don't always think that you have to go with, and there's stuff that's behind the scenes that employees don't see, but you can always find ways to add to the employee experience, even if, right, you're having to raise deductibles and raising premiums. Always find that one thing that you can deliver that is an add-on, whether that's, something small that you can do that always makes employees feel better that, okay, you're taking this, but you're giving me this.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, so, we've been talking a lot about how to get this renewal right for the employee experience. I think we'd all agree that the comms as we go into open enrollment is a big, big piece of that.
Yeah.
And so how do you approach comms? How do you set up a plan that you feel good about? And maybe even how do you include that in recruitment? Laura, you talked earlier about the importance of benefits in recruitment. How do you think about that across the board, both for new folks to TTEC, but also for folks that are currently there?
Ironically, we start planning communications now. We've already started thinking about how do we do open enrollment communications differently this year. But one of the things we do, which is valuable, and I've done it at smaller organizations and large, is a change brochure, right? Something that just highlights all the changes in one document for employees, so they're not having to navigate a presentation. It's something quick and easy that's simply laid out. It just gives all the benefit changes. We've done postcards in the past where you've got a QR code that, they can goes to the home and they could just snap and it takes them to kind of that highlight page. Younger generations want to have the ability to use their phones and not read large documents or otherwise. I would also say ask your broker for communication help. Particularly if you're a team of one, that's huge, right? They can help you draft the communications. It's usually something, right, that they might be able to do or a part of your statement of work that you have with them to help out with that. And I think it's really critical to kind of think about how do you make sure that you're fair and honest in your communications. Also have a leadership memo that comes out, right, that supports all the changes and things that you're doing. That's also critical. And then just make it human, right? Always, whether that's in-person sessions, whether that's a Q&A session, whatever it is, make sure you're just not sending them something, closing the door and hiding for the month at open enrollment. So they're really kind of make sure that that's human, that you're there to answer questions, right? Get feedback, whatever that may be, good, bad, or ugly. It's always nice to just they have somebody that they can talk to.
I think that human
I would just add, one thing to that. And I think, first of all, one thing I loved about you were sharing is that it's multimodal. It's not an email and hope it happened, having postcards, things like that. Part of that's because that as a person, oftentimes there's other people that you need to share benefits information with in your family. So if you're the one that's insured, but your partner is using your insurance or your children or whatever it might be, having tools in the communication plan that allow for that collaboration, sometimes webinars that are open to family members and other participants on the insurance plan are incredibly helpful. And then even in the application side, when employees are applying, having a packet available that you're willing to share with applicants around benefits, again, is a part that's an attraction piece.
I love the multimodal thought because it is easy, I think, to say, well, we sent an email or we sent this thing, but we do. I mean, benefits are one of the things that we talk to our families about. We think about how will this affect my 6-year-old who has certain needs, all of those sorts of things. It's much more 360 part of what you're doing at work and what you're hoping for to come from your employer. As you think about multimodal, Laura, how do you think about kind of leadership comms? You talked about the importance of this to your whole leadership team, which I love. How do you think about that in terms of all the different modes you're using? How do leadership comms come into that and what role do they play?
I think it's important that, especially this time of the year, that you remind leaders of what the benefits that there are. So that you're reminding people, here are all of our benefits. We are in renewal season. Here's the timing that we're going to be sharing across the organization. sharing that plan to say, here's a few things that are up for renewal that we're reviewing. And then here's some things that are just not going to change. Get their feedback before any of the communications go out or anything else. And then in a communication cascade, when a material, not just like a postcard promoting benefit, but when a material communication is going to go out regarding our benefit programs, then we make sure that that's cascaded through our executive leadership team, then to the next level of managers, because employees have a lot of questions about benefits, and managers feel flat-footed if they're not able to really say, hey, this is what our programs look like, or let me help you with that. And so we want to equip managers to be able to answer questions as well.
It's a really good point. It's so unique to each organization. Some people have big teams, some people have that team of one, some people have a team of one that is also doing operations or other parts of a job, right? And so I think if we kind of think about getting that data and getting champions both inside where you're working, your company, and outside, there are great champions outside. Bring your broker in, bring those carriers in, see what you can do, and then really making it personal to the employee, make it about them. I do have some questions, but I'd love that are coming in. But I'd love to hear just about that make it personal piece. You talked a little bit about it, but any further thoughts on how do you make it personal to your employees? This is such a core part of what we all provide to our teams.
I think it's a couple of ways we do it, right? I think the way we deliver the communications, right, has to mean something. It's not all emails, it's not all hard copies. It's got to span the generations. I think the other thing when you do a live session, give stories, right? Make it personalized, that you've got these folks, or give them examples, because I think sometimes we do deal with difficult stuff, right? How do we use examples to them to make sure that they understand how the benefits work and resonates with them from a personal standpoint? And then I think you just have to make sure that if you're using a portal, or if you're using paper enrollments, or whatever that looks like, right, that you're laying in a little bit of personalization in there, so it doesn't feel like you're just one of the numbers, right? Whether that's a packet that goes to them, or a letter that says, hey, Laura, here's your open enrollment stuff, or an email that says, hey, Laura, here's your open enrollment stuff. That's ways you can make it personalized, and somehow they open that more when it comes to them personally, versus just a generic email that goes out.
Yeah, to the household at doesn't really work.
No.
Yeah.
To the Johnson family, or if you want to say, to Mark and his family, right? Then, and you could do it mail merge. I mean, these are not like
that's lovely.
To type up 100 emails, right? You could just do them as mail merges and kind of go that direction. I was going to play off something Laura said. Use your manager, know your people, right? Managers are key to helping you be advocates. Create talking points for them, right? So it's the constant message that goes out around them. I know it seems like a lot, but you could take 5 minutes, draft some manager talking points. Then in their team huddles or their team meetings or other things they're doing, they can cascade the message for you. It's like you're there, but they're delivering the message for you. And that just gets you more reach and more capabilities.
Yeah. One thing too on the communication side, because this is an area that can take a lot of bandwidth of people getting questions, is if you have a Slack or Teams channel that just is Ask Benefits, and you let employees participate in that channel, what I found, it's amazing, other employees will start answering questions. They'll start pointing people to the intranet location that might have had that document, and it also allows a small HR team to share the responsibility of responding to questions around benefits, so that people get answers sooner than if they send something to their business partner who happens to be on vacation, but now it's 2 days, and who do I call, etc. Having that channel, and with, like I said, Slack and Teams as options, it's just absolute magic, especially for small teams.
I think that makes so much sense. And I also think it lists kind of the transparency piece.
Mhm.
You know, you don't have to email one person, like you said, it happens to be the weekend they've taken a 3-day weekend, or they're out sick, and then you're not getting your answer. I think that ability to kind of crowdsource and point to all the resources you have provided is a huge lift, and it aligns actually to one of the questions we've gotten. So I'll maybe ask the question, and then if there's anything else to talk about, we can do it there. But what's the most streamlined way to address common employee questions and concerns during the renewal phase? So I think Teams or Slack or whatever tool you use to communicate sounds like a great one. Are you doing prep with FAQs or other things to help streamline those comms?
Yeah, so FAQs are vital, right? And even if you put it in a manager toolkit with all the talking points, or just for your HR team, right? It helps them take those commonly asked questions, get ahead of them. I always laugh because our first presentation is usually our worst one when we do open enrollment. And then because you never know what the anticipated questions are coming. And by the third one, you already know where all the hot points are going to be, and you already answer those out of the gate. And that's also, right, adapt your presentations as you're moving along. Know the questions. Maybe your first session, you got all these questions and you're like, oh, I apparently need to simplify that or build that out a little bit more or add a little more context to it. Don't be afraid to modify that to make sure that you're getting all the questions answered. But you can build your FAQs from that too. As you're going through, build your FAQs, have it being a living, breathing document
That
they can go to
iterative,
find
yeah.
and look, and there you're not answering all of those questions over and over and over and over.
Yeah, that makes a huge, I found all communications, if you can be iterative, it's a very positive thing because you're learning as you're going, right? So
Yeah.
we just got a question in, and you talked a little bit about this and when you came back to TTEC, but the question made my heart jump a little bit. So I thought we should talk a little bit about it. And this person says, I just got a super high renewal. What do I do now?
Oh, I think you have to sit down with your broker and say, what are the levers we could pull, right? What are the things, what's causing it? I think is one of the key things you have to know. Two is then what are the levers we can pull, right? Obviously you can look at employee premiums, you can look at deductibles out of pockets, but are there other things that you can have a conversation? Are there fees coming in from the carrier that maybe you need to kind of go back and negotiate? Is there some just other changes that you can do? And I think that's where that partnership really comes to shine, to say, how can I do this? Also, I always hold things in my pocket that we could pull out in the event you get an unintentional high renewal. And those are the things, are the safety nets behind you, right? That in the event you got a 10%, you were only planning on a 5, right? That you could pull out and say, this is the just in case break glass thing. Always have those, right? That will bring big dollars to the table. You may never need to use them, but always have them in your back pocket.
I'm imagining you like Mary Poppins. You have this pocket that you're pulling all these things out of the lamp.
Yes, usually I do. Usually I have a laundry list of things that are savings availability, and then we pull, we move them in and out. We don't need that. We can save that for next year. We need to move that in. Yep, kind of a slating chart, and it just helps you reduce the stress when you do get a high renewal. So you're not having that panic moment to say, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? Because now I have nothing in my hopper to help offset that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I always feel like, it's one of those things that there are certain processes and things that you might think, hey, once we've got it down, it'll get easier every year. Benefits is definitely not that. It's got to be one of those things you just buckle in and know it's always going to have challenges that are unique and surprising, because it's human health, and it changes. New research comes on board. There's a lot around the different weight loss medications right now, as an example, to cover or not to cover. What's the impact overall on the life cycle? These decisions, as long as there's medical innovation and people want to live as long as possible, this is always going to be such a materially important for the human and the finances of an organization, really bringing those together. So it's never a situation if it feels like, it's like hard every year. Yes, and it's hard every year. Yeah. And that's just the way it is.
And that's why
And
good partnerships can really make a difference, right?
correct. And, you know, example of that would be in a lot of states, you can't do anything with GLP-1s, right? States have passed things from that standpoint. But you could figure out with your broker or your carrier, right? What are some options? Can we put in a little bit higher prior authorization level so that we're making sure the people that need to get it are getting it? We're not using it for, if you don't intend to use it for weight loss, making sure that you're closing those gaps. So while it seems like those are easy things to do, they can have a big impact and help you navigate things differently by just understanding what's available in that space, what's your driver of that cost, and then you can kind of figure out how to pull those levers in a different way.
That's excellent. I wish we could keep talking. We've got a bunch of questions, and but I know that we do need to end for people's calendars, and for those folks all watching. Thank you so much for joining us today. We hope this has been really useful. A quick reminder to look at the free resources we've included. So we've got a guide to renewals and an employee benefit survey. If you want to run one of those this year, we've got a template for you. Makes it super easy. We also would encourage you to join our HR community. It's a great community of hundreds of folks that talk about these topics and really do that crowdsourcing and sharing and learning that we talked about earlier. So encourage you to do that. Laura and Tanya, thank you so much for joining us. The employees at TTEC are lucky to have you both. And I'm going to wish you only good thoughts as we go into the renewal season. So thanks for being with us.
Thank you.
So much.
One quick note for folks, if anyone wants help analyzing their current benefits, that's obviously, we do a lot of that. Feel free to email me at amy.frampton@navabenefits.com, and we're happy to help you out. We'll get you set up with a one-on-one on our team. Thanks everyone for joining.
Thank you.
Thank you.